Hero Arts fans, it's Sandy Allnock here with a video to show you some techniques for making watercolor backgrounds using Hero Arts daubers and water in your fingers. And look, my fingers are all clean so it doesn't leave you all messy, because I'm not one of those people who likes to get messy usually. These are the cards we're going to make today with this background technique. We can do both scenes as well as a tie-dye look. The colors that we're going to need for daubers today are some neon orange, neon chartreuse, neon yellow, Tide Pool, and buttercup, but you can use anything you want. On the right are the darker colors, Cup of Joe, field greens, red royal, and wet cement. I'm going to use Hero Arts watercolor paper. It's a cream color, whether you can see that in here or not. And the You Are a Winner fundraiser stamp set for Operation Right Home. Mine doesn't have the identifier sheet printing thing on it because this is a prototype set, but yours will have it when you purchase the stamp set. Now, the first thing we're going to do is get the paper all wet. I have a card front size one that I'm going to trim down for my card, but I have it very wet. I just have a dish of water there and I'm using my fingers, but you can use whatever you want to wet the paper, sponge or watercolor brush. Just make sure it's really wet. You can see how the Dauber ink blends into that really wet water. You can even put the water on afterward a little bit to add more really soppy areas where that ink is going to just drain off and spread out a lot. I'm going to do some clouds at the top, and this is using the Tide Pool and painting a little bit more of the water on there to soften that sky. I know it looks a little green here, but it really is Tide Pool. That's the normal color that you're probably used to. And you can see there's a little round circle right there where I daubed a little bit too hard. So if you're going to do a scene like this, just be careful not to daub circles because it'll be a little harder to recover. But in the card, I actually made that work. And I'm painting a little bit more of the color on and then adding more water and just working it as I go to try to make a really soft scene. You don't have to know how to paint. You just need to know what it looks like outside, which you look at every day, so anybody can do this. Just add a little bit of water. You'll have some pilling up of the paper and the edge of the dauber, so you can just brush that off after it's all dry as well. No problem. And getting the water on the end of the dauber is not a problem either. If it ends up being lighter, just tap it on some scratch paper and the color will restore as the water exits the head of that little dauber. I'm adding a little neon chartreuse to the bottom section because I want it to be a little lighter and brighter. I don't want it to be neon, but I wanted to just add a little bit to it. So I'm going to paint over it to soften it a little bit more and then add more of the field greens on top of it. So you can mix the dauber colors on top of each other. You can either do it while they're wet or wait till it's dry and then start over and add another whole layer on top of it. If you're an artist, you'll know what all that color layering can do for you. Here's the finished card. I wish the camera could capture just how pretty it really is. I left the card so simple in order to feature this beautiful scene in the background. And I added just the sentiment on top of it, left it really plain. You are my inspiration. And this card is dedicated to my dad today. This would have been his birthday. So happy birthday, Dad. I miss you lots. Wish you were here to see everything that I'm doing and creating. He was a big fan of my artwork. And I created another scene. I did a vertical one as well. Same technique, painting the sky and the tide pool and the scene down below in the neon chartreuse and tide pool and field greens down at the bottom. Really came out beautiful. You can even see those dauber dots in there. For the tie-dye look, again, you need to have the paper really wet. The wetter it is, the more it's going to look like this kind of crazy tie-dye thing. This is the dark quartz color, and look what a simple daub of dauber does. Wow! I just think this is really fun. I'm adding different colors to it. Different ones will splooge differently depending on the amount of water that's on the paper and how saturated it is, as well as, for some reason, some of the daubers seem to do this sploogey thing better than others. And I'm just going to be mixing a bunch of different colors on there. As you saw on the card, I'm just going to be taking chunks out of it. So I just want some of the chunks around there to have the kinds of colors that I want on the card itself. So I'm just layering them on top of each other so I can pull them all out and make them into that design that I had in my mind when I created this background. And I wanted to have a little bit more tide pool in there. I know the colors are going to dry way back from what they are showing on here, so I I wanted to add more color to it. This is the Cup of Joe, so I'm going to do the masculine version of this. And look at the splooge! Just love the splooge. But you can tell here that the center portion has already dried because I'm not getting that splooge. So I just kind of scrunched around the dauber on there so that I could get a different look to that little piece of it. And again, the red is not splooging the way I had hoped that it would, but you know, you can get definite dots this way. And then you add water and whoosh, that color just starts to bleed and blend out there. I love this, I just love this technique. And next I want to add some field greens to it just to add a little bit more color to it so it doesn't end up looking too weird on the card. And layering these colors one over top of the other. So here's the finished card, and I really like the way that the elements are gathered on the right hand side, all those circles and those black accents to match the black layer and the black sentiment, just really tie the whole thing together. And it makes a really great sun card for a deployed hero to send home to his teenage son. I think that would be a great card for a young man. This other card, of course, is the girl version using the lighter colors in the tie-dye and really bringing out the tide pool background with that little bit of tide pool in the daubering. And I just think the colors work together and just make it really happy, cheerful, and yet well-designed card. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you enjoyed it, please click that like button down below. You can hit subscribe up here for the Hero Arts channel, and right below it is a subscription for my channel as well if you want more from me. And I will see you another time. Have a really great day.